My name is Elizabeth Harris, and I'm 33. That evening started like any other. Quiet, ordinary, the hum of city life just beyond the thin walls of my apartment. Ethan, my boyfriend of 4 years, and I were sprawled on the couch, a half-eaten pizza between us. It was one of those small, domestic moments that felt deceptively safe, like nothing in the world could touch us. I had been focused on work all week, deadlines piling up, emails pinging constantly, my phone buzzing like a metronome of stress, and Ethan had noticed. I could tell. He always did. But I had thought he understood. He'd been supportive, patient, even when I skipped dinners and missed a couple of movie nights. Tonight, though, something was off. He barely touched the pizza, pushing slices around as if they were obstacles rather than food. His usual easy smile was missing, replaced by a distant, pensive gaze. I tried to laugh, to fill the silence with light-hearted chatter, but he seemed unreachable, contained in a world that didn't include me. "Elizabeth," he finally said, his voice low, almost reluctant. My stomach tightened at the way he said my name, that pause before words came out. I set my slice down, a quiet warning bell in my mind. "Yeah?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. He hesitated, looked down at his hands, then back at me, and suddenly the room felt smaller, heavier. I need to tell you something important." The casual dinner vibe evaporated. My heart picked up, a nervous flutter I couldn't shake. "What is it?" I asked, forcing calm, though an uneasy knot formed in my stomach. He took a deep breath. "There's someone at work. Vanessa. We kissed." I froze mid-bite, pizza halfway to my mouth. My hand trembled, slowly lowering the slice. For 4 years, I had believed in us, in the way we laughed, argued, and grew together. And now, just like that, my world contracted to a single, horrifying fact. Ethan had kissed another woman. He continued before I could speak. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but I felt, noticed. I've been feeling neglected. You've been so focused on work, and she listens. She pays attention when I talk." The words slashed through me. My mind raced. Neglected? I've been working overtime to afford the apartment we've been planning. I've been sacrificing sleep, weekends, every ounce of free time for us. For him. I swallowed hard, trying to anchor myself. "So, that justifies—" My voice cracked. I couldn't finish. Ethan's eyes softened, almost pleading. "It's not about justification. I'm not asking you to forgive me immediately. I needed to tell you. I felt conflicted, confused. I didn't want to hide it from you anymore." Conflicted, confused. Words that didn't soften the blow. I could feel tears welling, my chest tight, air heavy in the room. All at once I wanted to scream, to cry, to hurl the pizza box across the room, and yet I sat there frozen. 4 years. 4 years of shared birthdays, inside jokes, weekend trips, whispered promises at 2 a.m., and now this. I felt my mind scatter, desperate to reconcile the Ethan I knew with the Ethan who had betrayed me. Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe it didn't mean anything. But deep down the truth screamed at me, unignorable and raw. This wasn't a one-time lapse. This was a fracture in the foundation of everything we had built together. I don't know what to say," I whispered, voice barely audible. I had no words that could fit the enormity of what I was feeling. He leaned closer, as if proximity could bridge the chasm he'd created. "I just want you to understand. I'm not trying to hurt you. I love you, Elizabeth. But I need to be honest about how I've been feeling." I stared at him, seeing the conflict etched into his face, the guilt, the longing, the temptation. And suddenly, I understood the truth about honesty. It was useless without accountability. His honesty had come at the cost of my peace, and that realization was bitter, sharp, like shards of glass in my chest. I picked up my slice again, mechanically, almost laughing at the absurdity of it. Here I was, holding pizza like a talisman against a storm. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in, the once cozy space transformed into a cage. I wanted to ask the question screaming inside me, "Are you keeping her around?" And of course he did. I don't want to hurt her either. I care about her, but she's not the problem. It's us, or maybe just me. I've been feeling lonely. Lonely? The word felt like an accusation, an unfair reversal. I had been giving everything I had, and now the emptiness he felt was my fault. I stayed silent, my thoughts spinning. Do I confront him? Do I forgive? Do I walk away? Can love survive this? Every answer felt simultaneously impossible and necessary. Hours passed, though minutes stretched like years. We spoke, argued softly, the conversation punctuated by silence that roared louder than any words. By the end, there was no reconciliation, no comforting resolution, only a truth too heavy to bear. My relationship, the one I thought was unshakable, had just been cracked wide open. Ethan left the apartment that night. I watched him go, the door clicking softly behind him, and I realized the quiet before the storm had ended. What came next, anger, grief, betrayal, would define not just our relationship, but who I was going to become after it. I sat alone, pizza cold on the plate, and let the weight of it all sink in. Betrayal isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it's quiet, insidious. It settles in your chest, makes you question everything, and then it changes you. And in that moment, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't continue being the woman who quietly absorbed someone else's recklessness. The next morning, I woke to a hollow apartment. The faint hum of the city, a cruel reminder that life outside my heartbreak continued, as if nothing had happened. Ethan hadn't messaged, and I hadn't reached out. Sleep had been elusive. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, Vanessa's name flashing in neon in my mind, and the words "I felt neglected" echoing like a mantra I couldn't forget. By mid-morning, my phone buzzed. Ethan. Maybe he wants to explain, I thought, my chest tightening at the hope and nausea that mingled together. I opened the message, hands trembling. Can we talk tonight? Please, I want to make things right, Elizabeth. I stared at it. Make things right? How could things be right again when the foundations had crumbled beneath me? My mind spun, replaying his confession, the casual way he dropped the truth over pizza as though it were just another Friday night anecdote. By evening, he was back in the apartment. The space felt tense, charged with electricity and unspoken truths. I made tea, hands shaking, and we sat across from each other, the air thick with the kind of silence that presses on your chest until you can't breathe. I've been thinking, Ethan began, voice careful. I don't want to lose us. I love you, Elizabeth. I do. But I felt something missing, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. I swallowed my rising anger, forcing calm. Ethan, you kissed her. That's not something that happens by accident. You weren't missing something. You were seeking it somewhere else. His eyes flickered, shame mingling with pleading. I know, and I hate myself for it, but I also need to be honest. She pays attention to me. She listens. When I talk, she's really there. I've been feeling invisible at home. I've felt ignored. Ignored. That word made my stomach twist. Ignored? I've been carrying us, working overtime, planning our future, sacrificing sleep and time to make our lives better. And I'm invisible? I worked late so we could afford the apartment we've been dreaming of, I said, voice trembling, but sharp. Every hour I spent, every missed dinner, every sleepless night, it was for us, Ethan. And somehow that's my fault? He flinched, but didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tried a soft smile, the one I had fallen for 4 years ago. It's not your fault, I know that. I feel like I needed someone to notice me the way I deserve to be noticed. And he paused, struggling. She makes me feel valued. My chest ached, a raw, burning pain. Oh, valued by someone else. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional, insidious. His need for validation had led him to Vanessa, and he expected me to absorb it quietly. Do you want to be with her? I asked, voice small but steady. I don't know, he admitted, and my heart sank. The words were a knife. I care about her, but I love you too. I don't want to lose what we have. My mind reeled. He wanted a foot in both worlds, a parallel life of comfort and temptation. I could feel my body tense, every muscle screaming for action. I will not be anyone's second choice. I refuse. We argued for hours. Words flew like arrows, cutting deep into vulnerabilities we had shared for years. Ethan kept circling back, trying to explain, justify, rationalize. I listened, sometimes shouting, sometimes silent, letting the weight of each sentence land like bricks on my chest. "You don't understand," he said at one point. "I didn't want to hurt you. I needed something you weren't giving me." "And what about what I've given you?" I countered, voice breaking. 4 years, Ethan. Everything I had, my time, my love, my heart. And it wasn't enough? You didn't feel valued here, at home, with me." He looked down, shame and guilt washing over his face, but his words betrayed him. "It's complicated. I can't just erase how I feel. I can't control who notices me." I realized then that there was no turning back, no salvaging the illusion of us as it had been. His honesty was not an olive branch. It was a revelation of his emotional infidelity. And Vanessa? She had been his mirror, reflecting all the attention and affirmation he felt deprived of. Finally, I stood up, tears streaming down my face, a mixture of grief and righteous fury. "I won't be your backup plan, Ethan. I won't be someone you reach for when you feel invisible. You made your choices." His eyes widened, panic flickering. "Elizabeth, you see— Wait, don't do this. Couples work through hard times. We can fix this. I can fix this." "No," I said, my voice gaining steel. "You can't fix betrayal. You can't negotiate trust once it's broken. You can leave. Or you can stay and face the consequences of your actions. But I won't stay silent. I won't stay as the second option in your life." I grabbed my coat, keys, and bag, the motions automatic, fueled by adrenaline. He followed me to the door, pleading, desperate, but I ignored him. That night, I left the apartment, leaving behind the life I had built for us, the dreams we had shared, and the man I had once trusted completely. As I walked into the cold night, city lights blurring into streaks of color, I realized something crucial. The spiral of betrayal wasn't over. It was just beginning. And if I wanted to survive this, to reclaim my dignity, I would have to fight, not just for my heart, but for my very identity. The quiet apartment was gone. In its place was a storm, and I was in the eye, standing firm, ready to confront everything that came next. The following week, I tried to keep busy, burying myself in work and the small routines that had always grounded me. But everywhere I looked, reminders of Ethan and Vanessa's betrayal waited. A notification ping here, a blurred shadow of their laughter in my memory there. Then it hit me. Social media. I scrolled through my feed and froze. Vanessa had posted. There she was, filtered, staged, perfectly lit, the image of someone who looked calm, sad, but undeniably radiant, and beneath it, a caption carefully crafted to tug at hearts. "Sometimes you give someone everything and they take it for granted. When he doesn't appreciate you, find someone who does. Self-love, know your worth. Moving on stronger now." The words burned. I could almost hear her voice, soft and rehearsed, painting herself as the victim, the wronged party, the woman everyone should admire. Comments poured in, glowing praises from hundreds of followers. "Queen, you deserve so much better. Look at you glowing. Men really ain't it." I felt my chest tighten, rage and disbelief pooling inside me. She cheated. She manipulated him. She's twisting the narrative like she's the one who got hurt. My phone buzzed again, my best friend, frantic. "Elizabeth, did you see this? It's insane. Everyone thinks you're the bad guy." The disbelief in her voice mirrored my own. Every rational part of me wanted to scroll past, to ignore, to keep my dignity. But another part, the part that had learned not to stay silent, knew what had to be done. I opened my archives, the meticulous screenshots I had taken in the weeks after the breakup. Conversations with Ethan, desperate messages from Vanessa herself. She'd begged, pleaded, and tried to keep him while exploring something else. The evidence was clear, damning, and irrefutable. I sat at my desk, heart pounding, hands shaking, and composed a post. Side by side, images. On the left, Vanessa's public victim narrative. On the right, screenshots of her texts, begging Ethan to take her back while continuing to pursue him in secrecy. The caption was simple, precise. "Here's the real story. Truth doesn't need filters." I posted it and went to bed, exhausted and terrified of the storm I had just unleashed. By morning, my phone had erupted. Notifications, messages, comments. The reactions were instantaneous, overwhelming. People who had praised Vanessa now questioned, debated, scrutinized. A war was unfolding online, comments from neutral observers, friends, even strangers, dissecting the truth behind her carefully constructed facade. Vanessa didn't stay silent for long. She went on a tirade across her stories, trying to reclaim the narrative, claiming context, claiming manipulation, claiming I had no right to expose her private texts. But the screenshots were clear. There was no ambiguity. The truth could not be rewritten. Then came the ripple effect. Ethan's name, once central, was now peripheral. People started digging, discovering inconsistencies in her story, conversations she had with friends that contradicted her public posts. Her friends, her allies, began to fracture. One of them commented publicly, validating my side. She confessed to me privately that she cheated and begged for him back. The victim story online is false. Every revelation, every confirmation, every piece of evidence pushed Vanessa into a corner. She deleted posts, went private, tried to limit the damage, but the digital footprint remained. Screenshots, shares, and copies had already propagated across social networks. Meanwhile, Ethan, his role complicated, messy, but clear, stayed mostly silent, bewildered by the chaos he had inadvertently fueled. The woman he had chosen to betray me with was now unraveling, publicly exposed, and the consequences of manipulation, deceit, and dishonesty became unavoidable. Through all of it, I felt a mixture of vindication and sorrow. Vindication, because the truth finally surfaced. Sorrow, because relationships I had cherished, reputations I had respected, and trust I had freely given had been shredded. But more than anything, I felt a sense of clarity. Betrayal might be messy, might be public, might hurt like a wound that refuses to close, but silence is not the answer. Truth, even when it stings, even when it brings chaos, is the only way to reclaim your dignity. That week, my world had been ripped open, and in the shards, I found my own reflection, not as a victim, but as someone who refused to be silenced. The fallout didn't stop online, it spilled into real life. Vanessa's posts had triggered calls, messages, and even emails from mutual acquaintances, coworkers, and friends. People I barely knew reached out, either questioning me or offering support. I could feel the tremor of every whispered judgment and every misinformed opinion, yet underneath it all, there was a sense of release. The truth was out, and nothing she said could erase it. One evening, my phone rang. It was Ethan. "Elizabeth, we need to talk," he said, voice low, strained. I sat on the couch, letting the tension settle. This was the final conversation I knew we had to have, the one that would determine if any remnants of what we shared could survive, or if the chapter would close permanently. "I've been thinking about everything. What you did, what I did," he began. I understand why you posted those messages. I would have done the same. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything, Ethan," I replied. My voice was steady, controlled, though my chest still ached. "Actions have consequences. You chose to betray my trust, to seek validation elsewhere. I chose to protect myself and reveal the truth. There's nothing left to negotiate." He was silent for a long moment, then sighed. I wish things could be different. I never wanted it to get this far." "I know," I said softly. "But that's not enough. I can't undo what's been done. I won't be part of a relationship built on deception, Ethan. Not now, not ever." The words hung between us, heavy, final. There was no yelling, no dramatic confrontation, just the quiet weight of truth. After he hung up, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. 4 years of love, laughter, and shared plans had been reduced to fragments, yet I could breathe again. The storm outside my heart had calmed, leaving me with clarity. Betrayal leaves scars, but survival requires acknowledgement and action. Over the next few weeks, I continued to navigate the social and professional aftermath. Vanessa's accounts were private. Ethan retreated, dealing with the wreckage he had helped create. My friends and family rallied around me, offering support, a steady reminder that I wasn't alone in facing the consequences of someone else's choices. I also took steps to reclaim my boundaries. I deleted public posts, restricted my online presence, and focused on self-care. Therapy became a lifeline, sessions where I unpacked layers of trust, self-worth, and the long shadow of betrayal. I wrote in journals, took long walks, and let myself feel the full spectrum of emotions I had suppressed. anger, sadness, relief, and eventually acceptance. One morning, sitting at my favorite cafe, I looked out at the bustling street, coffee warming my hands. I realized how much I had changed. I was no longer the Elizabeth who had silently carried the pain of neglect or excused infidelity out of hope or love. I was someone stronger, someone who could face betrayal without losing herself, someone who understood that protecting your dignity is as vital as loving deeply. And though the scars would remain, I finally felt ready to step forward, to open new doors, to rebuild a life where trust and honesty were not optional, but essential. Ethan, Vanessa, the chaos, the social media storm, it was all behind me now. I had survived, and more importantly, I had reclaimed my voice. The chapter had ended, but my story, my true story, was just beginning. Weeks turned into months, and the chaos that had once consumed my life gradually faded into memory. The digital battlefield, Vanessa's posts, the endless comments, the frantic messages, was now a quiet backdrop, a reminder of how quickly truth and lies can collide in a world obsessed with perception. I found myself thinking less about betrayal and more about resilience. Betrayal had a strange clarity to it. It showed me who people truly were, and in turn, it forced me to confront who I was. I realized that love isn't just about giving, it's about recognizing your worth when others fail to see it. Therapy sessions helped me untangle the guilt I had carried, not for what I had done, but for what someone else had forced me to endure. I allowed myself to grieve, not for Ethan, not even fully for the life we had imagined, but for the trust that had been shattered. Each tear, each memory, became a step toward rebuilding myself. One crisp morning, I walked through the park near my apartment, the air sharp and bright. Children laughed on swings, couples strolled hand in hand, and the world moved on, indifferent to the storms I had weathered. And yet, in that indifference, I found freedom. My life was mine again. My choices were mine to make. I started small, reconnecting with friends I had neglected, diving into projects I had postponed, exploring hobbies I had left aside for love. Each action, each reclaimed moment, was a declaration. I am here. I am whole. I am more than the betrayals I endured. And slowly, unexpectedly, I noticed the subtle joys returning. A coffee at sunrise, a good book in hand, laughter that came easily and without caution. The sense of self-worth I had lost in the shadows of deception returned with quiet insistence. Looking back, I understood the lessons etched in pain. Love without respect is empty. Honesty is a shield as much as a gift. And the courage to walk away is sometimes the truest act of love, for yourself. Ethan faded into memory, not with anger, but with understanding. Vanessa became a lesson in clarity and boundaries, a cautionary tale of how deceit can spiral when unchecked. And I emerged as someone who could trust again, carefully, fiercely, and without losing sight of who I was. One evening, I sat by my window, watching city lights flicker like distant stars. I allowed myself a quiet smile. The storm had passed. The chapters of heartbreak, betrayal, and public chaos were behind me. What lay ahead was uncertain, but mine to shape. In the end, I realized the truth. Surviving betrayal isn't about vengeance or proving others wrong. It's about reclaiming yourself, building your life with integrity, and moving forward, stronger, wiser, and ready for the story that still awaited. The past had tried to define me, but I chose the future, and that choice was ultimately my own.